Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Rooted in Ag podcast, episode 7. Yeah, I'm here with Madison. Madison, how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm good. How are things in Owen County?
Oh, they're just fantastic per usual.
Oh yeah. Y'all should know the drill by now. We had some questions sent in way back in July. We've been trying to go through them all. There was a ton sent in, so it's going to take us a while to get through them. But we have another one today. It is, since it's y'all's final year in your high school chapter, what do you want to accomplish? And then I want to expand upon that and say, since we're both regional presidents, also in your region. Okay? So I'll let you go first.
So I think that one big goal for a senior and for an active FFA member, not only in the chapter but the region as well, is to leave their impact and to bring a sense of involvement and inclusivity within the chapter. I just really want the members at my school to know that they all have a home within my chapter, and they each bring unique skills to the tables, and it's so important to have all of them there and present. And I just want them to know that they matter. There's a few girls in my FFA chapter that are fresh to it. They have fear of public speaking, and I'm really just trying to encourage them that they belong and that with practice they will have progress. So what about you?
That's great. So right now, for all of y'all that don't know, I go to Barron County High School, Barron County FFA. Right now, our entire ag department is under construction. We don't have an ag department. All our ag teachers are dispersed throughout the high school. They're all away from each other and everything. So in my final year, I'm wanting to make sure we stick together and we get through the adversity, because there's a lot of great things coming, the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I just want to make sure that we get through that and are able to succeed. And then with the region question, I want to continue regional collaboration and try to better the region, because the region hasn't been very active in competition. So that's my 2 cents. I guess we'll hop right into the episode then. Other guest, great guy, love him. He's also from Barron County. We've had a couple Barron County guests, but he is the Director of Education for Kentucky Cattlemen's, and he's the former FFA State Vice President, Mr. Bradon Burks. Bradon, how are you doing?
I'm just peachy keen. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah, we're super excited. So just a couple weeks ago, you got back from Kentucky State Fair, right?
I did.
How was that?
It's, I'll tell you, so I grew up showing livestock and through with FFA and being there during the contests. And it's night and day when you're there for work in ag land versus back in the cattle barn or the sheep barn, goat barn, whatever that may be, versus handing out cookbooks and things. But I enjoy the state fair. I enjoy getting to talk to all the people, no matter all the consumers, producers alike. It's and get to eat some good ice cream while you're up there too.
Oh yeah. Before we started this interview, I wanted to make sure I nailed your official title, Director of Education for Kentucky Cattlemen's. But you made sure to know. I already knew it, but you were really adamant that there was more to it than just that. So do you want to talk about what all you do for Kentucky Cattlemen's and then the
Sure.
everything like that?
So in Kentucky is pretty special in terms of cattlemen's associations across the country. So we are the second biggest association in the country behind Texas. But most states in their cattlemen's associations are what they call one hat or two hat. One hat meaning just association, and that work can be policy, membership driven, things of that nature. Then two hat states include the Beef Council, and that's where I primarily work and code my time. So anytime a cow is sold here in Kentucky, $2 of that sale goes to what's called the Beef Checkoff Program. Now, that one of those dollars is the federal dollar. 50 cents of that stays in state for state programming, and the other 50 cents goes on to the Cattlemen's Beef Board, which they use with several big contractors such as NCBA, United States Meat Export Federation, things of that nature. The other dollar is a state dollar, and that dollar is refundable, but in that clause for that state dollar is this education word. And that's where I code primarily. I'd say over 90% of my time is spent focused on beef education in the state. So not necessarily cattle education, but beef education. And that's where I spend most of my time in that regard. But I'm also serving as the junior cattlemen's advisor in the state, which I was a former member of, and I love getting to do those things. We have several big programs that we do throughout the state, and several coming up. So I feel pretty lucky, feel very blessed to be in this type of role.
Oh yeah, and when you think education, you primarily think youth. So you being in both of those positions, it feels like you're set up to really do some amazing things for youth cattlemen across the state, right?
Sure. So I grew up, my first words were moo cow. And so ever since I was little, the cattle industry was something I knew about and was aware of. Started showing livestock at a young age. Started with goats, not necessarily cattle. Cattle were a little bit tall and a little scary to 5-year-old Braden, but goats weren't as scary. So we started with goats. That eventually led into cattle, and I ended with hogs. So I showed multiple species. Um, but got bit by the FFA bug my freshman year. So, Matthew, I don't know if this happened to you. When I was at Barron County, my freshman ag teacher was Doug Berry, and Mr. Berry made a bet. He said whoever was the first kid to come in class and say the FFA creed would win $20. Well, I was always down to try to win $20, and so I went home and I recorded myself saying the FFA creed, and I listened to it like it was a song going out of style. I listened to it over and over and over again, and ended up winning $20. But I got a little bit more than just $20 out of it. I got bit by that FFA bug, and my passion for FFA really began there, and being able to find a group of people that enjoyed cows and enjoyed agriculture as much as I did, and so that's where my love for ag education really started. Went to Western Kentucky University, got my degree in agricultural education, also got a minor in sales. Was prepared to go into a classroom, and but ended up getting this job position opened and applied, and was lucky enough to get into it. So I get to teach all people about cows and beef all day. So it's a pretty fun job.
Oh, you
You
want
want
to
me
ask
to
a
go?
question? You got it.
Yeah, so you mentioned being able to be in the classroom to advocate for the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association, but other than being in the classroom, what other outlets do you use to advocate for this industry?
Sure. So from a beef council standpoint, we have several programs. One of those is our youth leadership program. So in the summertime, we focus on various careers within the beef industry. This past year, we focused on specifically here in Kentucky, and took 29 youth part of that program. We had several days full of curriculum on anything from beef advocacy, beef production, both live cattle and also in product. We also talked about some marketing pieces. We also got to do some cool contests of different burger pictures, burger photography. So we run several magazines out of our office, and I think somebody's bragging that they had a really good burger, but
Y'all
we'll try
can't
to
see
keep it
me, but I'm
humble.
going crazy. I'm throwing up W's and stuff because my burger did win by a large amount of votes. So I was really excited for that.
Another program we have that's similar to that one is our Nebraska program. So Nebraska Youth Beef Leadership Symposium is a conference that University of Nebraska Lincoln puts on, and we help sponsor that program. So we get 10 seats to their conference, but we also go out about a week early, go do various industry tour stops, anything from feed yards to feed mills. I think we're going to be able to get to go to a leather processing manufacturer this year, so that's going to be really interesting. Um, but besides some of those deals, specifically within our teacher programs, we have a Beef in the Classroom grant where we reimburse the cost of beef for teachers. I host various teacher professional developments. What were the things I would have wanted to have known as an ag ed teacher, as a person in the teacher's shoes. So I try to host some trainings for them. And also at State FFA Convention, we have our signing day. So those that are committed to being a youth beef advocate in the state can come up on stage and put on their hat, sign the proclamation stating that they're going to continue to be an advocate for the beef industry here in Kentucky.
That's awesome. I want to circle back real quick to the Nebraska trip, right? I feel like there's some misconceptions with that, and I feel like you could really preach to Madison real quick. You don't and for the youth leadership program, you don't have to be a beef producer to be an advocate and participate in these, right?
No, I'll tell you a quick story. So there was a lady, and I won't say her name. My very first year that I took this trip, she was on the verge of being a vegan. I mean, she really was pretty hot headed about some of the things we got to do, and her ag ed teacher really pushed her to apply for the program, and she got accepted. And she ended up coming back and now worked. Or last I heard, she was working on her neighbor's cattle operation, and we had burgers a couple nights in Nebraska. So, no, you don't have to own cattle to be a part of our programs. One of my big things is, I want to see the beef industry grow, and I understand that not everyone can raise cattle, and not everyone's going to be able to have the accessibility to do so. But we're going to need good beef advocates. All the students that go through ag education programs, as well as our junior cattlemen's program, aren't going to all be able to raise cattle. But I want them to be able to know the truth about the industry so they can share that with the general public, no matter what avenue or whatever career they go into. If that's the medical field or underwater basket weaving, we want all people to be advocates for the beef industry.
Madison, before you ask your question, I just want to say I told you so.
He sent me the little flyer information for the Nebraska conference, and I was like, Matthew, I have nothing to do with beef. Like, this is not for me. And he was like, no, but it is. So it is encouraging to see you all being inclusive to the majority. So to circle back to how the FFA bug bit you, it seems like you did pretty well at FFA throughout high school. So tell us about your state office journey, just sort of the whole just how you feel about your state officer year.
Sure, that was a long time ago. So I was state vice president 2017 through 2018. I come from a family that was all involved through FFA. My uncle Eddie was a state officer. His son, my cousin Sheldon, was a state officer. I've got a distant cousin. I call him Uncle Terry. He was state treasurer one year. And so I knew about state FFA office, and I knew about FFA offices before I even started. But I didn't know, what that path would look like, if that was something I wanted to do or not wanted to do. I never served as a president on any capacity, not at the chapter level, not at the region level, not at the state level. But I was involved in a lot, and I'm thankful for those opportunities. And I know you probably have several FFA listeners listening, and I just like to encourage them to know and realize that your office title doesn't matter. I could care less what an office title reads. I want to see your impact and see what you're able to do and how you're able to be a leader in a group setting and on an individual level. So I got to see a lot my state officer year. I had several awesome teammates I still stay in touch with. I get lunch with a couple of them from time to time. We're all still across the state. We see each other at state FFA convention. Some of us are there on staff. Some of them are there with their students, and others are coming to judge contests. But I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunities I got to have. Got to do a lot of cool things. Got to go to Washington, D.C. and do some lobbying. Also got to go down to RFD TV in Nashville, was interviewed there during my freshman year of college. But I really enjoyed the opportunity to talk to the members and meet the members across the state, especially in my home region. That was something that was really special to me.
I love it. And going back to your college experience, you're one of the few people right now we've had on that's a hill topper, or a former hill topper, I should say. We've had mostly Wildcats on. Going through my mind, I think it's been future Wildcats or current Wildcats or past Wildcats. So what do you like about WKU Ag? Tell us about your experience there.
Sure. So my parents actually met at Western through the ag program. In fact, my dad proposed to my mom at one of the houses on Western's farm. So but when I started looking for schools, I said, I'm not going to Western. There's no way. But I felt like I could go to Western and be a part of a program where I wasn't a number. I felt like I was able to go in and have a good connection and good relationship with my professors. Big Red's also my homeboy. He's been that since I was a little kid. I actually was homecoming king at Western my senior year. So I really
Wow.
enjoyed my time at Western. But I'll tell you this, I think that there are good ag programs across the state now more than ever. I think they all offer something different. And so to say there's one better than another, no. But I did enjoy my experience at Western.
I'm glad to hear it. You are a diehard WKU fan. I feel like saw you with the Bailey Zappi jersey Saturday night. That
Yeah,
was
and
pretty
we
slick.
went down and watched Alabama wreck us as well. But enjoy watching my Hilltoppers.
Oh,
It seems as if you're a very busy guy and you have a lot on your plate. So, sort of speaking to the listeners, how do you handle that stress and that pressure? Like, what do you do to keep yourself going in the straight path?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll tell you this: I still haven't figured out this work-life balance thing, because I feel like I'm in a position where I love what I get to do every day, and it doesn't necessarily feel like work. I work with great coworkers. I have an awesome set of junior board members I get to work with, and an awesome set of bosses, right? Our cattlemen's leaders across the state. Um, but you do have to find ways to do that. I'm a faith guy. I try to stay very rooted to that, and so finding those outlets are important to me. I also try to go to the gym every now and then. I was never a gym goer. I'm not an athlete. You can look at me and tell that, but trying to do some of those things are important. So focus on your mental and physical health both. I think go hand in hand. Like to go fishing. Like to play disc golf. Like to do some of those things, but no, I think that some of those are the few ways I try to stay balanced.
Yeah, it's very important to find that work-life balance, like you said. And there's no 2 days that are the same, so it's hard to create that constant routine. I know we're sort of bouncing all over the place, but I feel like I have a few questions. What do you think is one of the biggest issues or misconceptions or problems, not only in maybe not in the Cattlemen's Association or necessarily beef, but in the agriculture industry as a whole that you really, that really sits on your mind?
That's a good question. I think you can go a couple of different ways. Of course, advocacy is one of the big ones, right? And that's the big buzzword. Sustainability is the big buzzword that the general consumer is liking to use today. I think that there's a divide to an extent between some of our state organizations and the general producers in the state as well. And I think we all need to do a better job of being able to communicate together what's going on and how we're all working together. I also, give me a second. That's a tough one.
take your time. We can edit this out if we need to.
Good deal. You're going to have to.
I might just leave it in now. It's funny.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think another one, one of the big problems that I foresee is this food miles thing. We're hearing in the beef industry, cow farts are killing the planet. Look at all the greenhouse gases cows have. But you take all cattle away from the United States, greenhouse gas emissions only change by 2%. It's not the cattle. It's the mileage that we're putting on to get foods from A to Z or to one location to the next. So I think as far as the industry and as the future of the industry, we're going to have to start looking at that. And I think buying local is great, but I also think buying from your grocery store is just as safe and just as effective too. So we're going to have to find that balance, right? All producers are good producers. All beef is good beef. So being able to find that balance, I think, is going to be critical for future stability.
So when you're talking about the mileage thing, you're saying Kentucky beef needs to stay in Kentucky and feed Kentuckians to cut down on that greenhouse, or is
no, not necessarily. I think it's just something to monitor and something to look at. In Kentucky, we have several small to medium sized processors. We don't have any big sized processors, right? Our winters get very, very wet. Cattle don't finish very well when it's wet outside. But I think if we had something closer, I know there's supposed to be a bigger packer that could be coming into the St. Louis, Missouri area. I could foresee us starting to feed out some more cattle in Kentucky, where we're primarily a cow-calf state. We wean those cattle. where they may be backgrounded here in Kentucky, then they get shipped out west to a feed yard or something along those lines. I think we can maybe see some more cattle being finished in Kentucky. I think looking at these byproducts is critical, and figuring out, what are the things we can do to make sure we're being most efficient with our cattle and their diets. We have a lot of distillers dried grain in Kentucky, and making sure that we're feeding those things correctly and not overusing them for future growth of our cattle herds.
I got you. So we all know the average age of the farmer is getting older and older, right? We know more farmers continue to sell out, maybe not so much in beef, but I mean, beef farmers are still selling out, just like dairy farmers are. How are we trying to keep Kentucky the top producing beef state east of the Mississippi River?
Sure. Well, I think part of that comes from a couple of things. One of those, to me, is being a part of your membership organizations, and that may be a shameless plug, I know. But I didn't realize all the things that the Cattlemen's Association does to help their producers. If that's in Frankfort, if that's in Washington, D.C., we also have various programs that work on behalf of our producers. So the Kentucky Beef Network, powered by the Ag Development Board, does several big producer education opportunities in the state with their beef quality care assurance. There's also a program called Beef Solutions, where they will buy culled cows from our Kentucky producers. That beef is then harvested and is then packaged and sent to Kroger stores in Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Nashville's markets, trying to provide an opportunity for Kentucky producers to sell their cattle for a higher premium than they might typically get. So I think that's one of the big ways. Another one, to me, and this may go back to your question of, what's one of the biggest challenges facing the ag industry, is how are we keeping the next generation in line? I think the urbanization of rural communities in Kentucky needs to be looked at. I live up in Nicholasville, Kentucky now. It's growing like crazy, and I'm seeing several farms around here being sold to big companies that are breaking them up into 5-acre tracts, and then those are being sold to build houses on. And we keep doing those things, we're going to keep losing farmland. We're going to keep losing producers. So I think we need to find a way to connect the farmer in the state of Kentucky that may be aging out, that their family may not have any interest in raising cattle or farming that land. How do we partner those people up with the youth that do want to do that? How do we want to make sure that we're connecting those people together to keep the agricultural livelihood still alive today?
I like it. And then we have people like you in Lexington that are from the farm, and you understand it and y'all get it, and you do a really good job at that. What's something maybe that you do to make sure you stay rooted to the farm? Because, I mean, like you said, your first word was moo cow. We all know that, not trying to play on the podcast name, we know you're rooted in agriculture and rooted in beef and all that. But just to continue to keep those people, because I'm sure we talked about it last episode, the quote, farming looks mighty easy when you're 1,000 miles from the cornfield and your plow is a pencil. How are you trying to fill that 1,000 miles?
Sure. So within my position, I'm trying to pour back into what were the things that Bradon, when he was in a junior cattleman's member, what would he have wanted to have done? What would he have wanted to experience? What were the things he would have enjoyed getting to do and learning more about? And so being able to host events like that, we have a cattle working contest on a junior cattleman's level now, where teams of 3 are evaluated, not necessarily on their speed, but their efficiency and accuracy in working 3 head of cattle. I think something like that allows for youth across the state who want to be involved in production agriculture to have competition, to better their skills, to go back on the farm. And so I think putting in events like that, events like Fall Classic, which is a cattle show, but there are several different contests, including sales talk and skillathon and ad design, that allow for youth to be well-rounded in beef advocacy. I think pouring into programs like that is one way I get to stay rooted. Another one is I like getting to go back home on the farm. I had a phone call with my dad today on some of the cows we've had for a long time, and it's sold out or sent to the stockyards, or ones we're thinking of how can we market them and how can we sell them, and being able to be a part of those ways are important. I also like judging shows. Any chance I get to judge a county fair somewhere, or Dad and I got to judge the state or the junior Angus maturity this past year. So being able to be a part of those types of programs as well is something I love and enjoy getting to do to stay rooted in agriculture, Matthew.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for the plug, I guess.
You could send me a check later.
Okay, I'll let you know once we start getting paid. You're the first man, next man up.
I'll write that down. There you go.
I attended the youth leadership program in July. I'm sure you didn't forget about me. You did some great things for advocacy and keeping us informed, but you also helped us with like networking and social skills. We had stakeholder dinner, etiquette lunch. We got chances to talk to all these industry leaders. What's something maybe you learned through FFA or just through your years, life skills like that you have found really valuable, and how do you continue to push those for your youth?
One thing that I learned, and this is partially during my state FFA officer year, was doing a strengths finder test and figuring out what things I was really good at and being able to focus those and highlight on those. Another one was an etiquette dinner training and being able to, how do you go to a dinner table and make conversation with somebody you don't know anything about, right? And so being able to ask open-ended questions, being able to hear more about somebody's story and where they come from is something that I still use to this day. You may not go to an official etiquette dinner all the time, right? But it's good knowing how to make good conversation with people. There's always someone that knows more than you, and so being able to know that and utilize that fact to better yourself, I think is necessary.
For sure. I don't know if you saw it on our Instagram. I interviewed the chef that did the etiquette dinner for us.
Oh yeah, Beaky.
That's how you say his name. Okay. I was scared to try to pronounce it because it's spelled a little bit weird. But no, you were able to give us. I got to sit at the dinner table with Brandon Reed, someone we hope to get on eventually. And there was all sorts of people across that room that night in Hardin County. And it was just a great opportunity. So I know all other 28 people were really thankful for the opportunity and everything that you're doing. So I also wanted to say thank you in that regard.
Well, it's people like those that are in those programs is what helps me keep going and to enjoy the job I get to do.
I had the privilege. It was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago to teach 3 freshman agricultural classes. So doing that, I described our program to the kids, and then I made all of them take a personality test because I truly believe being in the agricultural industry, you just have to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you have to know what you bring to the table if you're going to be a good teammate. So you bringing that point up is kind of cool.
My bad. I thought you were going to go somewhere with that.
I thought I was, but maybe not.
Oh, okay. What's your preferred personality test? Like, they make us at Barron now, we take the Enneagram. Is that how you say it? Enneagram?
Yeah, I don't remember what the one I really like is called, but they give you like your top 5 strengths or whatever. Yeah. It may be Cliff's, I think is what it may be.
Is it like the
yeah, that's what the state officers do.
Yeah, Cliff Strengths Finder. I've taken it a couple times. Once with state office, and then once within the fraternity I was in. Did it twice, and it changed, and I thought that was really neat to see just a couple of years difference and how you evolve as a leader.
Yeah, were you an AGR?
I was not. So I actually helped start a fraternity at Western called Delta Tau Delta. So I was a refounder. I didn't want to go to a fraternity where I didn't feel like I was able to have my say, and I don't know if there was one on that campus that I could have or not had my voice heard or not, but the opportunity to help start a fraternity was something that I thought was a very unique chance. And I am not a fraternity guru by any means. I did go work for that fraternity following graduation of college, but it allowed me to have my voice and my impact made on that campus. And I wanted to be able to take that opportunity head on, and so got to serve as I was actually president of that fraternity at one point. So was never president of FFA, but I was president of the fraternity I was in. So.
That's crazy that you went VP. I guess you're just really good at it, right?
I guess. No one else knew how to say that long opening ceremony part, I guess, and I got good at it. So.
Yeah, you're just best memorization. That's what we do on the
Yeah.
Parley team. We just give it out to whoever can memorize the best.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds about
Oh,
right. Well, my cousin Kelby and I, so Kelby was like the twin sister I never wanted. So she's 3 months older than me. And so we were always head to head. So I was second in Creed. She was first in Creed. I got the regional officer bid. She was second. So it was always back and forth. But when it came to parliamentary procedure, I always knew how to argue against whatever the main motion was. Always. I could find a hole in it somewhere. So I said, put me in advice, and we'll let Kelby be president. And so we had a good tag team dynamic there.
I like it. Was Parley probably your favorite?
I don't know. I really enjoyed Beef Impromptu. I got second at state one year in that. Never got to win it, but I helped prepare a couple of youth that have done Beef Impromptu. So during my student teaching time and outside of that. So
well, you don't have any ties.
I like the Beef Impromptu.
Yeah, you don't have any ties to FFA, so you can kind of speak your mind for a second. How do you feel about it not being impromptus anymore and it being sort of a prepared, extemporaneous type of deal?
I see it both ways. I think there's something special about having to prepare for multiple topics and being able to go into to that prep room and know, okay, here's my 2 topics. This is the one I can speak better on. Here are the points I know I want to make sure to get across. So I think there's give and take between them both. Yeah,
you never got to experience the what it is now. I got to experience, me and Masson got to experience both because they were like that. So I did sheep and goat impromptu. Now I'm doing sheep and goat prepared, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always like to ask people's opinion on that. We always ask the question, prepared or impromptu, and the answers usually vary because, I guess based off of personality, like we were talking about earlier, people like to be prepared or they like to be put on the spot or whatever.
Sure.
Yep. So, okay, I have to ask, do you have any funny stories? Because you always have a funny story ready before we wrap up.
Funny story. In what capacity?
Let me think. Okay, so we got the Nebraska trip coming up. You've gone on it a couple times, right? Let's hear a Nebraska trip funny story.
Nebraska funny story.
PG-13, please.
So last year, and I don't know if you've had these people on or not, but Avery Cole, she's a current state officer. Callie DeRosset, Parker Keys. I'm trying to think some of the others that are holding like a state office at this point that were on the trip. Kaylin Stokes was there. We went. So I had this whole trip planned. And a couple of days before, one of the farming operations we were going to go to canceled. And I was like, okay, I need to find somewhere else to go. Well, I had found this Piedmontese deal. And if you know anything about Piedmontese cattle, they're very different looking. Let's say it that way. They're different looking. And I was like, well, we'll go tour this place. I see certified Piedmontese. And we showed up. And that was probably one of the coolest stops, industry tour stops I've ever done. We got to go and see some Piedmontese cattle. All that crew was going crazy. They were laughing, making Piedmontese puns. So anytime I see any of them, they say they're Piedmont cheesing. They're so Piedmont pleased to see whoever, right? So we get to do those things, and we're actually going to do a whole half day with certified Piedmontese and Dylan Vach this year. So I guess I'll give a shout out to them because they thought that was the coolest thing and the funniest thing in the world. So we do Piedmontese puns still because of that.
I love it. I remember we were at the YLP. One of our stops, the guy used to have a podcast. Matt used to have a podcast. He said, hey, you should go ask him about your podcast. I was like, well, I will if we get you on. So I'm glad we were able to finally get you on here.
Yeah, it was good too. It was good too, and I'd encourage both of you two to keep staying focused on what you're doing, and realize that your time in the FFA is short. But a piece of advice I was told when I was preparing for state office was if FFA is the highlight of your life, you're not living right. And that was hard for me to understand whenever I was in high school and even during and after my state FFA officer year. But that statement is very true. And so I encourage you all who are involved to stay involved and find ways to be active as an alumni member. No, Matt Koff didn't pay me to say that. But being able to stay involved to the best of your ability, but at the same time realize that there's a whole lot of other things going on in this world that you can be a part of, that your impact can be made in. So continue to keep the faith and stay groovy. How about that?
I love that advice. Yes, we were at Rising Sun this past weekend, and someone was asking me about state office, and they were like, it might have been you, Madison. You're like, how nervous are you? How nervous are you? And I said, well, Bradon Burks told me one time, if it's the highlight of your life, you got to figure something else out. And so I've really been using that because I'm pretty sure I'm going to run. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. So I stress about it because I'm one of those people that'll stress. And so
it's a big stressor.
I really do think about that quote a lot. I'm not trying to say, wow, you inspired me. So no, I actually do think about it a lot.
It made a big impact on me whenever I was preparing. And I used that time. I did some journaling. I talked to several leaders that I respected in the ag industry. I used that time mainly as personal growth, right? New change of pace in life and going from high school to college. A lot of people change in their character. They change who they are. And I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to grow in my character. And being able to know who you are as a person, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, knowing how those work and being proud of who you are, not in a cocky way, but in a confident way, was big. And I used that for preparation time to really do that. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. No matter the outcome, it ended up well for me. But like you said, Matthew, it's not the highlight of your life. And
yes.
So being able to be a better person throughout that process is important.
Definitely. And I guarantee you some of our listeners are aspiring state officers if they're wanting to sit through 40-minute ag podcasts. So do you have any other advice for specific to state office?
No, not necessarily. I think, being able to communicate and talk with those people you really respect, those advisors, if those are your ag teacher advisors or even those community stakeholders, be able to talk with them and share with them your goals and understanding why you want to be involved on a state level of FFA. If you're doing it because somebody else wants you to do it, you probably need to reconsider. Don't do it because someone expects you to do it. Don't do it because, it'll look good on a resume. Do it because that's what you want to do, and do it because of the impact you want to make.
I love it. Madison, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Bradon, anything else from you, man?
I don't think so. Thank you. Appreciate you all being on or having me on. And if you got any other questions about any of the programs we put on, kycattle.org. All of our youth activities are on there, as well as on our Beef Council website, kybeef.com.
If someone wants to reach you with more questions, what's a good way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, my email's on those websites, but it's bburks, B-U-R-K-S, at kycattle.org.
I'll put it at the bottom of this episode, so if you're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, scroll down maybe. Hopefully I'll remember to, and you'll find it right there.
Yeah, you have that good Barron County education.
Education right there. They learned me something. Let me tell you.
They learned.
Oh, no, but thank you so much. You gave some great advice, enlightened some people, enlightened me. Very philosophical for sure.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but good.
Madison, any more thoughts?
I don't think so. I just want to remind you all that each week or every other week we will have a new guest on, so just stay tuned and keep watching the page for exciting updates.
Yep, and thank you all for all the support still. Bradon, one more time, thank you for getting on. We appreciate you. And I guess we'll see you all in the next episode.
We're having an all-night revival. Some will call the women and some will steal the Bible. For the sake